It's Christmas in November, and the first thing I'd like to say is please subscribe to the channel. I would love for you to join me on this fascinating journey through all aspects of life, be it Christmas, be it happiness, sadness, enjoying every aspect of life and making the absolute most out of it through all of the adversities that we feel, through mental health issues, to physical health issues, and how we maximize that in order to get the very best out of life. So please subscribe, 2 videos a week, every week since 2016. So please subscribe if you want to join me on this fascinating journey. It's the start of November. It's a beautiful day here at the seaside, and even now already Christmas has hit the shops. There is the standard saturation of Christmas in the shops, on the TV and advertisements, everywhere you look. And every year it gets earlier and earlier, and it's moved now to basically the start of November. Flick a switch and there's a saturation coverage of Christmas. So Christmas comes 2 months early at the very least now. Traditionally Christmas is that it was 12 days. It began on December the 25th on Christmas Day and lasted for 2 weeks, or 12 days, nearly 2 weeks, and it finished on January the 6th. Which traditionally is Little Christmas, or Women's Christmas, which is a traditional day in Ireland as the final day of Christmas. And now we have flipped that on the head, and commercialism has changed that to 2 months leading up to Christmas. And it's the exact opposite. Once Christmas Day is over, then Christmas vanishes and the shutters are brought down. And regardless of whether you believe in the Christmas story or not, the whole meaning, or any meaning, of Christmas has been beaten out of it. And it's been replaced with a monster saturation of consumerism. But also there is a sort of a pressure in terms of happiness, and that Christmas is a happy time of the year, and for a lot of people it's not. In fact, it can be a particularly tough time of year. And my feelings over the years have been very ambiguous over Christmas. Traditionally in families it can be a very stressful time where it always appears that an additional stress is put on in an attempt to comply with societal pressures to have a normal, inverted commas, respectable Christmas, which involves a lot of additional unnecessary traditions in terms of workload to do with a meal and to do with decorations and presenting an image to the world in a way. And when growing up, I always found it kind of questionable when it seemed that the facade of Christmas was more important than the actual happiness or finding any meaning behind it. And that's something that stayed with me a long time, and I never wanted to be a cynic about anything, and particularly about Christmas, but it was particularly important to me in my childhood with Santa, which is a kind of a magical time for our imagination. And when my own daughter came along, it restored my faith in that magic of Christmas and that magical time when our imaginations can run wild. And it's about this beautiful figure of Santa and peace and love and caring and gifts and all that kind of thing, and not gifts for commercialism's sake, but gifts of warmth and love to each other. So that was rejuvenated when my daughter came along and she was a child, and that magic of Christmas and Santa relit that joy for me. And now I don't know where I stand. When November the 1st hits and you go to Starbucks and you're sitting down next to a Christmas tree drinking Christmas lattes in a red Christmas cup on November the 1st, dressed in a t-shirt, it's a surreal experience, and I feel very ambiguous about it. It feels strange celebrating it 2 months in advance, and then when the shutters come down on Christmas night and Christmas is over and it's ignored, then it seems equally weird that there's been a total flip-flopping of the way society handles Christmas. And I'm not expecting people to have a religious dimension to it, because that is just a fact of life now. Our society is quite secular, but to change it, to totally turn it on its head, is a bit of a metaphor for the way society is working in general and evolving. And society is turning a lot of traditions on its head, and the kind of warmth and interconnectedness we had before and connection with each other is now being replaced with a distance between us and a loneliness, which is the true epidemic. I mean, we've had this C-19 epidemic over the last 2 years, but I feel sometimes the true epidemic that's happening in society is the epidemic of loneliness. And for a lot of people, Christmas time will be an incredibly bleak and lonely experience, and that's the reality. And there's a bit of a juxtaposition between that reality and the saturation of happy images that you see on your TV screens and advertisements, and that equation of gifting expensive commercial items to each other and happiness as well, which of course we know is quite an empty thing. So how do I feel about Christmas now? I don't know. I think I have a warm feeling about it. Part of me says to give in to the early Christmas. The last thing I want to be is a bah humbug Scrooge and trying to resist the tide which is already swept over us. I mean, it's Christmas in November and I'm just going to accept it. And here it is. This is Christmas. This is Santa. There is still a magic to Christmas, and it is a time of the year for maybe 1 or 2 days when people do act differently, when people do have a feeling that they need to outstretch to people, be a little bit kinder, be a bit more thoughtful about other people. And if we can bottle that, it still feels very strange celebrating Christmas or beginning to celebrate that feeling of Christmas when you're wearing a t-shirt in a beautiful day in November. Let me know in the comments how you feel about Christmas, and please subscribe, and I'll talk to you next time.